But first, Elaine's conversation with Faiz Shakir. He's the National Political Director of the American Civil Liberties Union, the group best known for its high-profile lawsuits, often against the federal government. It filed one of the first challenges to President Trump's travel ban last year, and in a more controversial case, it advocated on behalf of last summer's Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. In a moment, you'll hear Elaine ask Shakir if the ACLU changed its policies after that rally turned deadly. But under the Trump administration, the ACLU wants to be about more than lawsuits. Its People Power initiative organizes members at the local level to demonstrate against policies the group sees as unlawful. It's a new chapter for a group that's been around almost a century. Elaine spoke with Faiz Shakir last week.
How has the ACLU adjusted its tactics in the Trump era?
Well, post-Donald Trump, I think there's a huge growth of ACLU membership. We've quadrupled our numbers, and so many people are asking the basic question of what they can do to be helpful in the cause for civil rights and civil liberties. And I think from our perspective, it needed to be an answer that was more than just see you in court. We needed to be able to say, see you in the streets, and mobilize people in service of the policy mission to change hearts and minds in this country around so many of the assaults on civil rights and civil liberties that we're seeing right now.
Well, part of your People Power initiative encourages supporters to hold local protests and engage directly with government officials. How involved is the national organization in local efforts like this?
So I think we have provided a digital organizing infrastructure so that volunteers are empowered to post their own events, to organize within their own communities, to identify civil rights and civil liberties causes in their local communities that are most upsetting to them or most inspiring to them. They post those on the map. We then at the national level help recruit other volunteers in the nearby area, help plug them in with partners to help boost their efforts, and then plug them in with our local affiliate ACLU offices to make sure that we're all aware of volunteer activities and giving them the best effort that we can to lift them up.
Well, we've read that the ACLU is planning to spend $25 million on ballot initiatives and issues in the 2018 midterms. Is the ACLU a political organization?
It's certainly a political organization. It is not a partisan organization. So you will not see us endorsing or opposing candidates for office. You won't see us aligning with any particular party, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. What you will see us doing is voter education and voter mobilization work. And so what that looks like is maybe scorecards from the ACLU that let you know how candidates are performing on civil rights and civil liberties issues, and then asking you to vote. And I think that is something that the NRA has done quite well in building the affinity with their brand, with their own members. They have built the idea of the NRA voter. I hope that over the next few months you're going to see the building and the flex of ACLU voters.
Yeah, let me ask you more about that. To what extent are tactics like those employed by the NRA informing your approach?
Well, I think the NRA has been very successful as a single-issue advocacy organization for many years in making their members feel affiliation with the brand and making members want to show up with each other in support of the causes that National suggests to them. And I think that they have done a great job of cultivating volunteers who are ready to do anything at the drop of a hat. And ultimately, when they ask those members and volunteers to go vote, they do so. And for that reason, they serve as a wonderful model for us. And I hope that over the next few years, you're going to see the ACLU develop the conception of the ACLU voter, somebody who thinks about civil rights and civil liberties when they cast a ballot.
So it sounds as though you would invite the comparison in terms of tactics.
Oh, for sure. In terms of tactics, we have much to learn from a very successful organization. We don't always agree on many issues, but I think in terms of tactics, yes, they've set a model that I think is worthy of emulation.
The famous trial lawyer Alan Dershowitz said this about the ACLU to Bloomberg News, quote, "We live in a time of growing extremism. The left is moving further to the left, the right is moving further to the right, and the ACLU is a part of that. Can the ACLU get political without getting partisan?"
Yeah, I think you absolutely can get political, and what it means to be political is to flex your political muscles in every way you know how, whether it's engaging in ballot initiatives that in Florida, for instance, will re-enfranchise formerly incarcerated individuals, whether you're going to get involved in issue campaigns, for instance, expanding the right to vote, automatic voter registration, fighting for undocumented immigrants through the Dreamer campaign, and ultimately a lot of those causes that you care about, issue causes, are going to be the ones that animate races themselves. So what we're doing is trying to think about the races from the perspective and the mind of the voter. Does the voter have the requisite knowledge, information, and education they need to cast a vote? And is there anything the ACLU can be doing to help mobilize them to the polls? When you take that perspective, it's not about the candidate, it's not about the partisanship, it's really about issue advocacy and making sure that we're expending our resources to do voter mobilization so that civil rights causes are lifted up.
Let's turn to the events in Charlottesville, Virginia last summer. The ACLU fought in court for the Unite the Right rally to be allowed to take place. A board member from your Virginia affiliate resigned, tweeting, "What's legal and what's right are sometimes different. I won't be a fig leaf for Nazis." Has the ACLU's approach to events like this changed?
I think the ACLU has long stood for the free speech rights of all. It's a principle that's core, a part of our lifeblood of this institution. You won't see us walking away from it. In the wake of Charlottesville, I think one of the lessons learned is that if people are carrying guns to protest, intending to do harm, that can be intimidating to others and can, in fact, quelch speech. And so we are reevaluating whether clients who intend to carry firearms and maybe want to limit speech are people who we want to choose to represent. That said, we will continue to forever defend the free speech rights of all, because ultimately each one of us, each one of our own rights is at stake when some marginalized group or some unpopular group is targeted by the government for some restrictions. I think it's also incumbent upon us, Elaine, that we are mobilizing our constituencies, our volunteers, our supporters in service of the values that we care so deeply about, to make clear that if we are supporting the free speech rights of, let's say, white supremacists, that we are also mobilizing our volunteers to fight for racial inclusion at the same time.
All right, Faiz Shakir, thanks very much, Faiz.
Thank you, Elaine.